Picture this. No central heating, no grocery stores, no puffy jackets, no fireplaces, no blankets. It's the middle of the Ice Age. Outside, everything is white and frozen and basically trying to kill you. Minus 30 degrees, wind screaming across an endless plain of snow and dead grass. And somehow, humans aren't just hanging on. They're actually doing okay. How? This is the story of how our ancestors looked nature's deadliest cold snap in the eye and said, yeah, we got this. Let's start with the body itself. Way before anyone figured out how to sew a sleeve, evolution had already been grinding away at the problem. Look at a Neanderthal skeleton and you'll notice something weird. They're built like barrels. Short arms, wide rib cages, stocky as hell. That's not random. It's Bergman's wool and Allen's wool doing their thing. In cold places, animals, including us, evolve bigger bodies and shorter limbs. Why? Because a rounder, more compact shape has less surface area compared to its volume. Less surface area means less heat leaking out. A Neanderthal was basically a biological thermos. But body shape alone wasn't cutting it. To survive, ancient humans also needed to crank out serious internal heat. Their bodies literally ran hot. Cold-adapted groups like Neanderthals and early Homo sapiens had jacked up metabolisms. Their internal furnaces were burning through calories like crazy. An adult Neanderthal probably needed something like 4,000 to 5,000 calories a day just to not die in winter. To feed that furnace, they ate whatever they could get. Fat, and lots of it. Mammoth marrow, seal blubber, bone grease. Every bite was basically pure lipids. And here's where it gets clever. Humans evolved this special kind of fat called brown adipose tissue.
Unlike the white fat you're probably thinking of, brown fat works like a biological space heater. It burns energy directly to make heat without doing anything else useful with it. Think of it as an internal radiator. Combined with this reflex called the Lewis hunting response, where the blood vessels in your fingers and toes periodically open up to flush warm blood through your freezing extremities, ancient humans could keep their hands working even when it was well below zero. That manual dexterity was the difference between making tools and, well, not making it. Still, the human body can only do so much. The real game changer was technology. Before tailored clothing, people just wrapped themselves in animal hides. Picture some cave guy throwing a bearskin over his shoulders. Fine for a breeze, useless in a blizzard. Draped hides leave gaps. Warm air escapes, cold air rushes in. They don't trap that insulating layer of still air that modern jackets rely on. The first real breakthrough was the bone awl. Around 100,000 years ago, humans started using sharpened animal bones to punch holes in leather. Then they'd thread sinew or plant fiber through those holes and pull the hide tight around the body. This was the birth of fitted clothing. Crude, but it worked. The second breakthrough came way later, around 40,000 years ago in Siberia. Someone invented the eyed needle. Sounds like a tiny thing, just a thin bone with a hole in one end, but it changed everything. An eyed needle lets you sew continuous, tight, waterproof seams. It lets you build layered outfits, a soft inner layer against the skin, a fur-lined middle layer, and a windproof outer shell. Archaeologists recently found needles at a site called La Prelle in Wyoming. These needles were made from fox, lynx, and hare bones. Not mammoth, not bison, small carnivore bones. Why? Because those bones are dense and springy. You can carve them into incredibly thin needles without them snapping. The smaller the needle, the smaller the hole in the leather. The smaller the hole, the less wind and moisture sneak through. That level of precision is straight up engineering.
And once humans had fine needles and tight seams, something unexpected happened. Clothing became social. When your whole body is covered head to toe, you can't show off your tattoos or your ochre paint anymore. So people started decorating the clothes instead. They sewed shells, animal teeth, and carved ivory beads onto their garments. Clothing became dress. It became a way to say who you are, what group you belong to, your status, your story. This was the birth of fashion. Not born from vanity, but from the sheer necessity of not freezing to death. Okay, your body's wrapped up, you're warm, but you still need somewhere to sleep. Caves were the obvious move. A deep cave stays roughly the same temperature all year, no matter what's happening outside. But caves are rare. On the vast treeless steppes of Ice Age Eurasia, there weren't any caves. There weren't even trees. So what do you build a house from when there's no wood? Bones. Mammoth bones. At sites like Mezerich in Ukraine, archaeologists have found the remains of ancient dwellings built entirely from woolly mammoth skeletons. The builders started with a ring of heavy skulls and jawbones anchored into the ground. On top of that, they arched long, curved tusks inward to form a dome. Then they covered the whole thing with animal hides, weighed down with more bones. Some of these huts used the remains of nearly 100 mammoths. Inside, there was a central hearth. But here's another problem. What do you burn when there are no trees? Mammoth bones, apparently. Dry bone is porous and full of fat. It burns slow and hot, like a log soaked in grease. The smoke helped cure meat hung from the ceiling. Every part of the animal got used, for structure, for fuel, for food. Food.
That brings us to the hardest problem of all. You can't hunt all winter. The herds migrate, the landscape goes quiet. You need a way to store food for months. Ancient humans figured this out in a bunch of ways. In permafrost zones, they dug deep pits into the frozen ground. These natural freezers kept meat below zero all year. Along rivers, they sank carcasses into cold water and weighed them down with rocks. An underwater fridge that also kept scavengers away. And when it was cold but not freezing, they used smoke. Those same bone-fueled horses that heated the hut also cured meat. They sliced it thin, hung it from the rafters, and let the smoke dry it out. Smoke carries antimicrobial stuff, phenols and formaldehyde, that stops meat from rotting. The result was a protein-rich, shelf-stable food that could last through the darkest months. The ultimate survival food was pemmican, dried meat pounded into powder and mixed with rendered fat. It was calorie-dense, lightweight, and lasted for years. Basically the energy bar of the Ice Age. So what's the takeaway here? The story of winter survival isn't about one single invention. It's about a whole system. The compact body that holds in heat, the brown fat that generates it, the bone needle that sews the windproof coat, the mammoth bone hut that blocks the blizzard, the permafrost pit that stores the meat, the smoke that preserves it.
Ancient humans didn't just endure winter, they engineered around it. They adapted their bodies, their tools, their homes, and their societies until the cold wasn't a wall anymore. It was just another season. That's how humans spread across the entire planet. Not because we're the strongest or the fastest, because when the world froze, we figured it out.